Breakout Session 3 will begin soon. Do you really remember how to count? Scott Nielsen and Brook Williams from the Ames Center for Math and Science Education will look at what a child might experience as they learn to count. They'll do this with an eye to helping adults provide better support for children in their early engagement with number. Please join Scott and Brook in Breakout Session 1.
Hello everybody, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending where on the planet you are. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this session. My name is Scott Nielsen. I'm from the Ames Center for Math and Science Education in Fresno, California, and I'm here with Brook Williams, if you want to wave.
Hello.
All right, and we are going to talk today about do you really remember how to count? And as we get started, we're going to invite you to do a couple of things. You may have just come back from a stretch break or possibly a lunch break, or maybe you had a cup of coffee during the last session, which was awesome. As we get started though, we're going to ask you to grab a few items to count. And these can be anything. You'll need probably, maybe about 25 to 30 things. So maybe a handful of marbles, some rice, beans. I have here a jar of colored pencils. They really could be anything, just anything you have, some loose items, a jar of pennies, handful of pennies or coins. And then also while we're waiting, on the screen you'll see some kind of random shapes on it. And I'm going to ask you to look at that picture and find the star. And it's not a trick question. There is a star in that picture. So if you can look at that and see if you can identify where the star is. And we'll probably give you about another 30 seconds to do that. So find a handful or a small collection of things to count. 25 or so items is about all you need. Anything small, loose, and countable. And see if you can look at that picture of geometric shapes and see if you can find the star that is in there. And again, not a trick question. There is a star. And maybe even in the chat, if you want to throw your name and maybe a plus sign if you know where the star is. Okay, so we've got a lot of fun to have together today. Hopefully you're having a great day, and this will just add to the learning and the fun. And so let's go ahead and get going. And I'm going to show you the star.
Scott, just so you know, we did have a couple of comments in here that they found it.
Okay.
A few people did find it. We've got some pluses. Good.
All right. Good deal. So thank you for saying that, Brooke. I actually am not seeing that interaction in the chat. So I don't know, Brian, if there's something I need to switch over or refresh, but I'm glad that Brooke, you saw that.
We also have some comments that so people could not see it yet. Still looking. Okay. So we've got some negatives coming in and some I can't find it.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Now I've got it. I hit kind of a refresh and it went there. So thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's get going. So here is the star right there. And now I'm going to take it away again. And now you'll probably see it much more readily. So there's the star outline, and there it is. Not outlined. Now I'm asking you to do something. Look away from the screen just for a second, and now look back at that picture, and I bet you see the star almost automatically. And the reason we're doing that is because once we see something, it's really difficult to unsee it. Once we learn something, it's very difficult to unlearn it. It's difficult to remember what it was like not knowing what we know. And what we're going to do today is we're going to try to have some experiences together that helps us remember what it is like to learn how to count from a child's perspective. I have been counting for so long. I don't remember learning how to count. It's just second nature to me. And I bet most of us, I bet all of us are in that same situation. So we want to actually look at counting again from a child's perspective as an early learner, 1, 2, 3, 5 years old, learns how to count and has those beginning experiences with number and collections. What does that feel like for them, and what might be some implications for their learning? So I'll show you one more time. There's the star. There is not the star. And real quickly, the AIM Center for Math and Science Education in Fresno, California. Our mission is to have an equitable world through math and science education. We're involved with partners around the state and some outside the state, from Head Start to K-8 schools. And we are also forging our way recently into maker education. And we're all about playful, equitable, inclusive learning. So that's who we are. Our plan for our session today is to do 3 things. We're going to have some experiences together around counting. We're going to walk through those. Then we're going to have some reflection time and have you share in the chat, doing some reflection about those experiences and why number and counting is so foundational to the understanding of math. And then there's always got to be a payoff. And so we'll not only do some counting, but we'll have some takeaways. And we want the takeaways really to be just observing student behavior and learning how that can inform us and our understanding about student understanding and how we present things to them. So let's get started. I'm going to ask you to take off your adult hat right now. I'm going to have you put on your student learning hat and pretend along with us, and let's do some counting. Are we ready to count? But we're not going to count in a traditional way. We are going to leave our regular number world behind, and we are going to enter letter world. All right, so in letter world, we don't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We count in a very different way. And we'll count together. And the way we count is A, B, C, D, E, and so on. And I bet a lot of us even know a little song that helps us remember that letter word sequence for counting. And we can sing it together if you want. I'm going to sing along, and let's sing the letter world counting song. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my letter world counting sequence. All right? So remember that we are in letter world, and we are not going to be using that old number world that some people used to do, right? And I really want us to hold tightly to that, and here's why. A second or third or a 2 or 3 year old child learning that sequence can't convert to anything else. So as we count things today, it's going to be very tempting to convert and say, oh, well, 3, that's C. Kids can't do that. They don't have that conversion tool. So we need to do our best to get rid of that conversion tool as well and stay only and strictly in letter world, no numbers, okay? And we want to have this experience be as close to what a student experiences, so we're going to hold tightly to that. Now, if we were all together in person, sitting around tables in a big, nice conference room or something, we would hand out buzzers, and it'd be really fun because if you heard somebody at your table using numbers, you would hit the buzzer and it'd be kind of a fun laugh, everybody. Oh, you know, you got the buzzer, you used a number. But we can't do that. So we have another way to do this. Bucket of chicken. You're like, what in the world is bucket of chicken? So anytime you catch yourself using a number in the next period of time, you have to bucket a chicken yourself. So you can just yell out, bucket of chicken. Or if somebody's with you, or if you hear somebody else, or you know what, even if you see somebody in the chat, put a number in there, give them a bucket of chicken, all right? So that's kind of our buzzer for right now. So we're counting only with letters, no number world. If you hear, or if you even find yourself thinking in numbers instead of letters, bucket of chicken, all right? Brooke, what do we got?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with some counting, since that's one of the first experiences that our students have with number after they've kind of learned a number sequence. So lucky for us, we already know our number sequence. I'm sure we all might know our ABCs. Maybe someone doesn't, but we haven't had to go through that process. They still had to do that, though. So we're going to do some counting. Some items. So we're going to start with fingers. Scott, could you show us what I mean when I say count our fingers?
Sure. So I mean, we all know how to count our fingers. 1, 2.
Bucket of chicken.
Oh, of course, bucket of chicken. Yeah, that we're not using numbers, are we?
That's
okay.
not how we're counting.
So that's how bucket of chicken works. All right, so here's how I'm going to count numbers. I count my fingers. A, B, C, D, E, and so on.
All right, perfect. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to count in letter world is our fingers. How many fingers do we have? And remember, even if you think in your mind, number world, bucket of chicken yourself. So how many fingers? And go ahead, answer in the chat. I'm getting some responses coming in.
I see a great one. I already see an abbreviation, BOC, bucket of chicken. Nice.
Feel free to let us know, like some of you are, if you had to bucket a chicken yourself on this one. Okay, great. So.
Oh, somebody had to BOC.
All right, so we've got J fingers. What if we add in our toes? How many fingers and toes all together do we have? I think I had a 3-piece meal. Love it.
That's awesome.
There might be some thoughts coming straight to your mind that might cause you to bucket a chicken yourself when you think about how many fingers and toes you have. All right, we're getting lots of responses.
Yeah.
Making sure everybody has time to count their fingers and toes.
Now, to be fair, I guess we'd have to throw out that we might not all have the same answer on this, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a couple other answers. G's and T's, B's, U's, G.
Ooh, Jennifer Stilch, you're already doing some advanced alphabet letter counting. Hold on to your seat.
Someone listening in Spanish with us. Nice. All right. Okay. So hopefully, oh, someone did a J plus a J equals T.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Okay. Next thing, you should have gathered some things to count. They can be whatever. I saw somebody earlier was eating their jelly beans. Hopefully you have enough to make it through the rest of our time together. But go ahead and count out L items. I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. Now, if you're doing any translating in your mind of what that means into some other world.
What other world is there?
I don't even want to say it. Okay, good. We have a few left of those jelly beans. I think mine would be gone too if that's what I had chosen.
Ooh, here's a great question. Is a dozen letter world or number world?
What was the question, Scott? I missed that.
Is a dozen in letter world or number world? I think that's a psychology of letter world question.
We're getting philosophical here.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we've got pens, apricots. I love how people are putting what they're counting. We've got...
Uh-oh, Maria, bucket of chicken. L is L. I don't know what those other symbols even mean.
All right. Okay, so hopefully you were able to count out L items and maybe have an experience of what it's like to count out when you don't already know what that entails. We're going to look at some collections. Now, these might be kind of automatic to you, so make sure that you're paying attention to what happens in your mind when you're doing this. But how many do you see here? Go ahead and count them if you need to.
Whoops, I went too quick. All right. Seeing a lot of good letter counting going on. Pretty quick.
I saw a bucket of chicken come up a couple times too. There's some.
BOC.
Hard to unsee that star, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Next collection. How many strawberries do we have here?
All right. Yeah. Lots of A's.
There we go. Yep. All right. How many rubber duckies do you see?
Bucket for me. G, so lots of G ducks.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so let's move on. One of the things that we feel pretty familiar with, and sometimes we feel like it's pretty obvious if we hold up this many fingers. Well, it's obvious how many fingers that is, right? Well, let's see. Is it still obvious? How many fingers is this?
Well, we're going to do dot patterns first.
I went on to fingers and we're doing dot patterns. Okay, yeah. Dot patterns. Even these, we recognize them a lot. There might be some bucket of chickens being called out because they are so ingrained in our mind, but go ahead, throw the first one out there.
All right.
How many did you see flash up there?
Somebody put it in the chat.
I'm seeing some real quick answers, and they're in the right world.
Yeah. Somebody put in the chat, this is so much harder than number world. So hold on to that thought.
Yeah. Ooh.
Because Anna, a bucket of chicken on you. Hold on to that thought, because remember, what we want to do is reflect, what does this feel like for children? They don't know number world. They're just learning number world. So hold on to that.
Yeah.
Oh, Denise, BOC.
Lots of these TWO words coming out.
Sure. Yeah, technically that's still not letter world.
Nope.
Yeah. That's a 3-digit letter.
Yeah. Another thing to think about, since we flashed the dot pattern really kind of quickly, if you don't already know and have memorized how many dots there are, what did you have to do in your mind? Did you find yourself doing any picturing, imagining? How did you figure that out? And let's go ahead and throw up the next dot pattern form.
Before I have to bucket of chicken myself. I said 3 digits. That's C digits. That is a C-digit letter number. All right.
Okay,
Here's the next dot pattern.
Their fingers pictured in their mind.
Let me flash that one again.
All right. How many dots was that?
All right. Here we go. I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming in. Yeah, that was E. Next one.
Nice. Well, one thing I wanted to mention, there was a couple of comments. Let me see if I can find them again. That it reminded them of counting with their kindergartners. And I can't find there's so many coming in now that I can't find them anymore. Okay, in different bases. And then also subitizing for letter world. Exactly. Yep. And then some different ideas of how they go about. So let's go ahead and throw the next one up. All right, how many dots on that one? So I'm noticing some people are saying they're counting. You're actually having to go back and count again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just thinking, like, what does that mean for children as they're trying to subitize, as somebody mentioned in the comments, these patterns that are so ingrained in our minds? And lots of D's coming up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was D dots.
D dots. All right.
More. Oh, now we're in finger patterns.
All right. Somebody said that they are replacing the dots or items with letters. So there's this, that's kind of like that one-to-one that's happening in the counting, right? But now we're almost more cognizant of it because we're going into this strange letter world that we haven't, hard to retrain your brain, right? Lots of bucket of chicken.
For children, it's not retraining, it's training.
Yeah, so this is the first experience that children go through, and we even have a little bit of an edge on them. We're getting as close as we can to going back before we knew how to count. Yeah. All right, so finger patterns. Go ahead for first one. Trying not to think numbers. Yes, it's so
good for you. Right?
And that's kind of what we meant, or what we were trying to draw out with the star in the very beginning, is it's just so hard to unlearn or go back into that time before you knew and remember what that was like. And that's what we're trying to experience today. What are kids really dealing with when they're trying to count? What did it feel like before we knew how to count?
Here's the next one.
Alyssa says, I saw 3. Bucket of chicken. Yep. And it's so hard not to, right? It's so just ingrained in our brains now.
Here we go.
I'm so into this. Awesome. All right. How many fingers in that pattern? Oh, geez. Are you all having to count? Is there some kind of counting? I heard somebody else earlier say that they drew up kind of an image in their mind and counted with that image. Somebody said they used their fingers to count. Yeah, so
subitize.
Yeah.
But I think my question for subitize is your subitizing based on prior counting experiences?
Yeah.
Reflect on that for a little bit.
So I saw a number first and then counted with my fingers.
Yeah, Julia says her 8-year-old is actually singing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, A, B, C, D.
So there's counting going on, right? There's this need to count before you can even subitize or connect that amount with the word that we're using to describe it. Picturing that. So that's another really interesting thing as we're learning to count, is the imaging that we have in our mind and the pictures we're drawing up. Okay, so hopefully this was kind of fun for you. Got to do some counting in different ways and kind of remember a little bit what it was like before. But just take a moment and think about, how did you get your answers to these questions? And we've talked a little bit about this But if you have anything to add, or you just want to put in, how did you solve, or how did you answer these questions? And what strategies that you used were similar to things that you've seen students do? So either of those questions, feel free to add into the chat, or you can just think about it if you'd rather just think to yourself.
Well, these are two real powerful comments right here. Maria says, it's hard for me to use only visualization. We need something else, don't we? Before we can visualize, there has to be something concrete.
Yeah.
And then Don said, I know the quantity, but I don't know the label that goes with that without going through the sequence of letters.
Yeah. I see a comment in here, I can only subitize to D, which is really interesting because there's something to be said about how far we can actually subitize even as children for the images that are shown.
Yeah. I have this great image of all of you sitting around your dinner tables tonight, mumbling the alphabet song and yelling about buckets of chicken. So it's going to be great.
Have anyone around them somewhere that have no idea why you're saying bucket of chicken really loudly? But we've got some people describing themselves as visual learners, and then using the fact that they already know E is 5.
Well, bucket of chicken.
We'll let that be okay. But using their knowledge of letter sequencing. And let me get up here. Lots of comments.
Oh, Anna, this I don't know if this is cheating. Counting in Spanish, but reciting letters in English.
I'd say that's a super big bucket of chicken because whatever number world you know in number world is still number world.
To be fair, that's a bucket of pollo.
To be fair. It's almost like losing the concept of number. Yeah. What an interesting comment, because to those number words, we have attached the amount that is, right? And so now that we've taken that away, that's what we're hoping that we can experience. Before the kids have anything attached to that number word and what it means and how many that is.
Yeah. All right, so are we ready for next level?
All right. Yep.
Because you know what's coming next, don't you, everybody? We're going to do some addition. And remember, no going back to number world. We are staying strictly in letter world. All right, so we'll start easy. Let's try C plus A. What do you have for C plus A? Comments, oh no. All right, C plus A.
Oh, I'm seeing some I'm bucket of chicken some responses here.
Yeah. All right, so a lot of D answers, that's good. Okay.
As you're doing this, just continue to pay attention to how am I doing this as I'm doing this?
Right.
My brain thinking.
Okay, here's the next one. How about D plus C? Now D plus C, there's a fundamental difference between that and C plus A. Anybody find out what it is? Something that you might have to do for D plus C that you didn't have to do for C plus A. If you want to throw that in the chat, you can. All right, so I'm seeing lots of G's. I think it's G, A, B, C, D. And then C is, I know what C looks like. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, G. Okay, good.
So I'm noticing that Leslie, I believe is how we pronounce it. Please forgive me if that's not right. But she mentioned she's counting on. Scott, the way you just did that, you kind of did it in a counting all sort of a way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Somebody said they're still using manipulatives. What I was thinking is, all my answers are BOC. um, what I was thinking is, if you're using your fingers, D plus C is different because you have to use B hands. You can't do it on A hand. You have to use B hands.
B hands.
I was much more careful that time. Okay. All right, here we go. How about G plus B? Catherine, you said you're writing everything down. I hope you're not writing numbers and trying to convert back and forth, because that's still cheating. That's still a big bucket. All right, so G plus B.
So I see one comment, and hopefully I'm interpreting this right, but she said for D plus C, I was able to add those as one step, but then had to count starting from A up to G to solve. So maybe like A, B, C, D, A, B, C, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G might have been some activities. Has anyone ever seen students do these sorts of things as they're just learning how to add?
Yeah. And that kind of leads us to this. So how did you solve it, and why did you solve it that way? And we've already got some people answering those questions. I'm starting to use my cubes to help with the addition. Rachel wants to know, how do I buy this? Well, there's this place called KFC. Yeah, so let's go ahead and throw some things in the chat if you want. But how are you solving this, and why did you choose that strategy? And this is a little bit more of putting your adult self-reflective hat back on.
We got somebody saying, in order to subitize, I would assign each letter a number value. Bucket of chicken. Yes, that's bucket of chicken.
Yeah. Good self-reflection.
Don't get to do that, right? I use my fingers, but this is making me forget the alphabet.
Yeah. Forget the alphabet. Hey, I'm not going to lie. When I started singing, my first thought was, oh no, I hope I don't goof it up. Oh, my math brain 9-year-old. Oh, I don't even know what a 9-year-old is. You might mean an I-year-old?
I've never needed manipulatives more or talked to myself more.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah. So some of the ways that we saw that they were solving was counting on or counting all, using fingers, using manipulatives. Just
Comment there.
Frustrated.
Yeah. Comment there. Thank goodness Joe Bowler recommends counting on fingers. What's Joe Bowler, based on a lot of solid research, this is why kids need to use fingers. Absolutely. Thanks for making that comment. Yeah, Joe Bowler is not alone. There's a pile of research that shows that. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't make
down the
like
alphabet.
making Dr. Bowler throw under the bus. And not at all. She's awesome.
Yeah. Somebody said, I had to write down the alphabet. Is it cheating? And I would think not if you're still using the alphabet in order to count, but sometimes don't we see kids actually wanting to write or see the numbers in order? But some of these things that you're feeling like you need to do to be able to achieve your goals, similar to what students think or need to do in order to make sense of the things that we give them as well.
Why do we put number lines on our walls? That's exactly why we do that. Yeah. All right, let's go for a little bit more addition. It's going to get a little bit more challenging. How about I plus D? I plus D. Now, I'll even throw out a challenge here. What if you could only use your fingers? Try that using only your fingers and see what is challenging about that. We have a little bit of our feedback issue coming back here.
Here, I'll mute myself. Oops.
I plus D. I'm seeing a lot of M's show up. Okay, Don, you nailed it. Yeah. We have to reuse our fingers for that, don't we? And that is a huge hurdle for kids to get over. How many times have you said, asked a kid, what's 6 plus 5? And I know I'm reverting real quickly, but they'll get here and they're like, I don't know, I don't have any more fingers. Until they realize, oh, I could reuse that. I can call that guy anything I want to. That's a huge hurdle. Thanks for calling that out. Awesome. Okay, how about this one? How about N plus K?
I saw somebody mention or ask, can I use my toes? I've actually seen a student try to use their toes or different things, and they ran out of fingers as they were trying to go just beyond 10.
Brooke, do you remember the kid who was counting the notches on his zipper because he ran out of fingers? He was playing with his zipper. Like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm counting.
Yep, and he was trying to just find something that he could count, and that's what he did. That's what he found.
He landed on. Uh-oh, Tracy had a BOC. Whoops. I hope that, are you counting? You're calling us out probably. We probably slipped up.
Oh, we probably did.
Yeah.
Not only do we have a BOC, we have an OMG as well.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay, so N plus K, I'm seeing some Y's, I'm seeing some Z's. I'm seeing a little disagreement here now that we're kind of up into some higher letter values. And so if we were a class as a teacher, I would have to evaluate and think, okay, what does that tell me about my students' learning? And what am I going to do about it? What might my next step be? Maybe we've jumped a little too far too fast. Maybe we're not ready for that yet. What I certainly wouldn't do is yell at you and say, how come you can't get this right? It's so easy. Everybody knows the letter world. Oh yeah, maybe that's why the Mayan numbers are based on 20. They use toes. Yeah. All right. Let's keep moving here. Kind of keeping an eye on the clock. We're at about 51 minutes. So, all right. So let's think about this again. How did you solve it? Why did you solve it that way? And then let's throw this other question in here. What strategies were like something you have seen your own students do? Be really interested to see what you say there. How are you doing things that are exactly like what you see your students do?
I love how we have a comment here. I like using a letter line. And they are really making sure that they're not getting bucketed chicken.
No chicken for you. They are committed.
And so many people bringing up that they're using manipulatives.
Mm-hmm.
They're, that's so helpful. And you get to a point where you just need them.
Kristen says that one, and I assume you mean the N plus K, is almost impossible without having mental number bookmarks. That's a great comment. Mental number bookmarks. So like I know this is E and I know this is J. If I'm reading your comment right, those would be mental bookmarks. Is that what you mean? I hope so. This is where I really wish we were in person, but we will be soon. Ooh, April's throwing out bigger challenges. What about K plus C? What if we were adding C numbers together? N plus K just equals BOC.
There's someone that said my students count with their fingers, even still in grade C.
Yes.
I'm staying away from the buckets of chicken there. But there's some descriptions of counting out each of the amounts, whether it's with tallies or manipulatives or fingers, and then recounting all of the items in whichever way that you've done it. That's definitely something we see students do.
Yeah. I taught grade G for a long time, and I saw them counting on their fingers there too. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Let's see, Brooke, I think we're jumping back to you now. Oh no, now we're going to try some subtraction. We got to subtract. How about Q minus H? How would you do that? Q minus H.
As we're getting close to the end of this, we're of course going to be asking you kind of what are you doing to figure this out? What do you see your kids do that you, so feel free to throw those in as you're trying to figure out Q minus H. How is your brain thinking about this? Wow, there are a lot of different options coming up in the chat for this one.
Yeah.
I need a letter line. I mentally wandered off to dramatic play. Something we do see children do, isn't it?
Yep. Too much. I'm just gonna go do something else right now. Yeah.
Somebody else has a headache. It's hard. All right.
I don't remember what Q minus H is. I would have to figure that back out. I'm just that mean teacher that throws out problems without figuring them out himself. Yeah.
So somebody got out counters.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like maybe that was the first time so far that you've had to get out counters, maybe. Alphabet chart. I used Q series of lines, H series of lines below them, circled the difference, and sang myself to the total.
That's pretty huge.
Got some bucket of chickens coming in here. Tally marks and then mark them off.
Ooh.
I went from H to Q, then said that many letters from A.
Ooh, wow. That's a powerful one. Let's see.
Is it I? I had to find Q on the letter line and then sing the alphabet song going backwards till H. Okay. Somebody said, this is hard. Now I can relate to students. I drew tally marks as I sang to Q. After that, I crossed out H by singing to H as I crossed them out.
And then I'm going to guess the next step was count everything that's left.
Yep. Well, we've got 1 minute left.
Okay.
So might be time to say goodbye. Thanks for sharing the different ways that you all solved today. And if you want to just throw in the chat, how might this affect the ways you engage with students as they learn to count or add or subtract, which are some things that we experienced today in Letter World.
All right.
All right.
So don't forget that once we learn something, it's hard to unsee it. And thank you again for joining us. Here's our website, aimcenter.org. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.